Kim Tae-ho stared at the screen for the third time that night. The numbers did not make sense. For 15 years, he had worked at the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Chile. He knew what normal space looked like. This was not normal. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago. Outside the control room, the desert wind howled against the metal walls. Most of his team had gone home for the night. Only the essential staff remained, watching the endless stream of data from space. Park Soo-jin, come look at this. He called to the woman working at the communications desk across the room. Soo-jin pushed back her chair and walked over. Her dark hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. She had been working the night shift for 2 years now. Nothing surprised her anymore. Or so she thought. What is it? She asked, looking at the screen over his shoulder. This signal, Tae-ho pointed at a series of waves on his monitor. It started 3 hours ago. Look at the pattern. Soo-jin studied the display. Her eyes grew wide. That's not random, she said slowly. That's structured. That's language. Exactly. Tae-ho rubbed his tired eyes. But it's not from Earth. The source is way out there past Neptune. And Soo-jin, it's not just one language. I count at least 12 different patterns mixed together. Soo-jin pulled up a chair next to him. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, running the signal through various filters. Some of these patterns look familiar, she said. Wait, this section here. That's English. Broken English, but English. The two scientists worked in silence for the next hour. Slowly they began to separate the different language patterns. English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic. All mixed together with languages they had never heard before. Tae-ho. Soo-jin's voice was barely a whisper. I think someone is trying to talk to us. At that moment, Lee Dong-woo walked into the control room. The military man was tall and serious with short gray hair. He worked as a liaison between the monitoring station and the government. Usually he only came during the day shift. Working late again? He asked, but his casual tone did not match the concern in his eyes. I got a call from headquarters. They're tracking some unusual readings from your station. We've got something, Tae-ho said. A signal from deep space. It's definitely artificial. Dong-woo's expression became serious. Show me. For the next 2 hours, the three of them worked together. Soo-jin's communication software slowly decoded more of the message. What they found made their blood run cold. The voice belonged to someone named Veltar. He was dying, alone on a space station somewhere in the dark between stars. His people were gone. His world was ash, and he had one message for Earth: they are coming. The translated message read, The Galactic Empire. They have watched your world. They have decided. You are next. The message continued with technical details that hurt their heads to think about. Ships bigger than cities, weapons that could crack planets, an empire that had conquered 47,000 worlds. This has to be fake, Dong-woo said, but his voice lacked conviction. Some kind of joke or test. The signal is real, Tae-ho insisted. And look at this. He pointed to another screen showing deep space scans. I've been tracking these energy readings for weeks. I thought they were just cosmic noise, but now they look like ships, Soo-jin finished. The message from Veltar included a data package, information about the Empire's methods, their technology, their plans. As Soo-jin's computers decoded the files, a picture emerged that made them all feel sick. The Empire was efficient. They studied worlds from far away, decided which ones were worth taking, and then moved in with overwhelming force. They had done this thousands of times. It always worked the same way. First, they would classify the target species. How dangerous were they? How much would they fight back? The Empire had a scale from Class 1 to Class 10. Class 1 species were the most dangerous, with technology and weapons that could threaten the Empire itself. Class 10 species were barely intelligent, often wiped out without even knowing what happened. What class are we? Dong-woo asked. Soo-jin pulled up the file. Her face went pale. Class 7. They call us primitive non-resistant. What does that mean? Tae-ho asked. It means they think we'll surrender without a fight, she read from the translated data. They've assigned a small fleet. 300 ships. The Empire expects total control of Earth within 30 days of arrival. The room fell silent except for the hum of computers. Outside, the desert wind continued to blow, but inside, 3 people stared at information that would change everything. When? Dong-woo asked quietly. Soo-jin checked the timeline in Veltar's message. The advanced scouts are already here. They've been watching us, studying us for decades. The main fleet, she paused to double-check her translation. 6 months? Maybe less. Veltar's message continued with details about Empire technology, their weaknesses, their blind spots, but it also contained a warning that chilled them to the bone. Every species the Empire had conquered had made the same mistake. They had all tried to fight the Empire using the Empire's rules. We need to contact the government, Dongwu said. All governments. Everyone needs to know about this. Will they believe us? Taeho asked. They'll have to, Dongwu replied, because Veltar included proof. As if responding to his words, Sujin's computer chimed. New data was coming through. Video files, images, technical specifications that would take Earth's best scientists years to understand. But most importantly, Veltar had included the Empire's complete survey of Earth, how they saw humanity, what they expected from the conquest, their plans for the human species after surrender. Reading through the survey, the three scientists realized something terrible. The Empire had been watching Earth for decades, but they had only observed during peaceful times. They had seen cities and farms and space stations. They had cataloged human technology and society, but they had missed something important, something that might be the only hope humanity had. The Empire had never seen humans at war. We need to make some calls, Dongwu said, reaching for his secure phone. And we need to make them now. As he dialed the first number, Taeho and Sujin continued translating Veltar's message. The alien's final words were both a warning and a plea. I have given you what I can, the message concluded. My people fought with honor, but honor was not enough. Perhaps you will find a different way. Perhaps you will succeed where we failed. This is my last transmission. May your species prove stronger than mine. The signal ended. Somewhere in the darkness of space, Veltar was gone, but his warning would live on. In a small monitoring station in the Chilean desert, 3 humans stared at screens full of impossible information. In 6 months, the most powerful empire in the galaxy would arrive at Earth, expecting an easy victory. They had no idea what they were really coming for. Choi Min-ho had not slept in 3 days. The physicist sat in a secure conference room deep beneath the United Nations building in New York. Around him, the best minds from every nation stared at data that should not exist. Run the classification system again, said Yoon Haiwan from across the table. The military commander's uniform was wrinkled. Like everyone else in the room, she had been working without rest since the alert came in. Min-ho's fingers moved across his tablet. The alien database appeared on the large screen at the front of the room. 47,000 conquered worlds, each one catalogued, each one classified according to the Empire's threat assessment system. The pattern is always the same, Min-ho said, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. The Empire sends scouts. The scouts observe for years, sometimes decades. They study technology, society, military capabilities. Then they assign a classification. And then, asked Nam Ki-young, the engineer sitting next to him, then they send the appropriate fleet size. Min-ho pulled up another file. Class 1 civilizations get the full Imperial war machine. Thousands of ships, weapons that can destroy stars. The Empire takes no chances with Class 1 species. What about Class 10? Haiwan asked. Class 10 gets a single ship, Min-ho replied. Usually just to catalog the planet's resources after the species dies out naturally. Around the table, representatives from every major nation leaned forward. They had all seen the evidence. Satellite images of massive objects moving through the outer solar system, radio signals using technology that should not exist, mathematical proofs that hurt to think about. Our classification is Class 7, said Dr. Sarah Chen, the American representative. What does that usually mean? Min-ho pulled up the comparative data. 300 ships, 50 million soldiers, standard occupation protocol. The Empire expects total surrender within 1 month. He paused. They've never been wrong before. Never? Haiwan asked. Never. Every Class 7 civilization has surrendered exactly as predicted. The Empire's classification system has worked for over 10,000 years. Ki-young leaned back in his chair. So what makes a species Class 1 versus Class 7? Technology level is part of it, Min-ho explained. But it's more complicated than that. The Empire measures something they call resistance potential. It's not just about weapons. It's about willingness to fight, tactical thinking, ability to adapt under pressure. And they think we have low resistance potential, Haiwan said. Very low. According to their files, humans are classified as predictable, surrender-oriented, technology-dependent. Minho scrolled through more data. They expect us to negotiate for better surrender terms rather than fight. The room fell quiet. Outside, life continued normally. People went to work, children went to school, families ate dinner together. None of them knew that in less than 6 months everything would change. "There's something else," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the Japanese representative. "I've been studying the Empire's survey data about Earth, what they observed when they observed it." She stood and walked to the screen. Her presentation showed a timeline of Empire surveillance going back 50 years. "They watched us during the 1980s and 1990s, she said. Mostly peaceful decades. The Cold War was ending. No major conflicts. They observed our space program, our cities, our technology development. So?" asked the Russian representative. "So they never saw us at war," Tanaka continued. "Real war. Totalva. They observed during peacetime and made their assessment based on that." Ki-young sat up straighter. "What do you mean?" "Look at their behavioral analysis." Tanaka pulled up another file. "They expect humans to make logical decisions based on survival probability. When faced with superior force, they predict we will calculate odds and surrender to minimize casualties." "That sounds reasonable," said the Brazilian representative. "Does it?"
Haywan asked quietly.
"Has that ever been how humans actually behave in war?" Minho understood first. His eyes widened as he pulled up Earth's military history. "They don't know," he whispered. "Don't know what?" Chen asked. "They don't know about Stalingrad," Minho said, his voice growing stronger. "They don't know about the Alamo. They don't know about Thermopylae or Gettysburg or Normandy." "Explain," Haywan ordered. Ki-young was already working on his own tablet. "The Empire's database includes detailed studies of 47,000 species. Every conquered civilization. But look at this." He projected his findings. "Every single species they conquered developed technology for exploration, trade, or defense against natural disasters. None of them developed weapons specifically designed to kill their own kind." "None of them?" Tanaka asked. "None. The Empire literally cannot conceive of a species that spends thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare against equals." Ki-young's voice was excited now. "They've never encountered a species that treats war as anything other than a logical extension of politics." Minho was scrolling through more files. "Look at their tactical assessments. They expect linear battlefield thinking. Overwhelming force meets resistance. Resistance calculates odds. If odds are bad, resistance surrenders. But humans don't fight that way," Haywan said slowly. "No, we don't." Minho pulled up Earth's military history. "Humans fight when winning is impossible. We fight when logic says to surrender. We develop new tactics in the middle of battles. We turn defeats into victories and victories into legends. The Empire has no experience with guerrilla warfare," Ki-young added. "No experience with asymmetric tactics? No experience with a species that becomes more dangerous when cornered?" The room buzzed with quiet conversation as the implications sank in. The Empire's greatest strength was also their weakness. They were so good at conquest because they understood how rational species behave. But humans were not always rational. "There's more," said Dr. Singh, the Indian representative. He had been quiet until now, working on his own analysis. "I've been studying the Empire's technology. Their weapons, their ships, their tactics. And," Haywan prompted, "they're designed for fighting species that think like them. Overwhelming technological superiority against enemies who fight conventionally." Singh stood and walked to the screen. "But look at this. Every ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine assumes the enemy will fight a certain way." "What way?" Chen asked. "Honorably," Singh said. "The Empire fights with rules. They announce their presence. They offer terms of surrender. They fight ship to ship in open space. They occupy planets through established protocols. So what happens when they encounter an enemy that doesn't follow those rules? What happens when they face an enemy that lies, cheats, and fights dirty?" Minho was nodding. "An enemy that uses their own honor code against them." "Exactly." Singh sat back down. "The Empire has conquered 47,000 worlds using the same methods. Because those methods always work. But they've never faced humans." Haywan stood up. She walked to the window and looked out at the city. Millions of people going about their lives, unaware that everything was about to change. "How long do we have?" she asked. 5 months and 3 weeks, Minho replied. "That's not much time." No, Ki Young said. But maybe it's enough. Enough for what? Enough to show the Empire why Earth is different. Ki Young's smile was cold. Enough to teach them that their classification system has a fatal flaw. Which is? They've never classified a species that evolved by fighting itself. Heiwan turned back to the room. Recommendations? Full militarization, Minho said immediately. Every nation, every resource. We need to prepare for war. What kind of war? Chen asked. Not their kind, Heiwan replied. Our kind. The kind we've been practicing for thousands of years. The kind we're good at, Ki Young added. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were made. Resources allocated. Calls placed to leaders around the world. By morning, every major government on Earth knew the truth. The Galactic Empire was coming. They expected an easy victory over a primitive, peaceful species. They were about to learn that humans had never been peaceful. And they were far from primitive when it came to war. The Empire's classification system had worked perfectly for 10,000 years, but it had never been tested against humanity. Oh Sung-jin stood in what used to be a car factory in Detroit. Now it produced something very different. The assembly line that once built civilian vehicles now created kinetic bombardment systems, weapons designed specifically to destroy ships in space. How many can we produce per day? Asked Kang Yuri, walking beside him down the factory floor. 50 units, Sung-jin replied. Each one can punch through 6 meters of Imperial armor plating. How do you know Imperial armor specifications? Sung-jin smiled grimly. Veltar's data included everything. Ship designs, material composition, defensive capabilities. The Empire has used the same technology for thousands of years. Why change what works? Yuri nodded. She had spent the last 3 months analyzing every piece of intelligence about Imperial military doctrine. The tactical analyst in her was both horrified and excited by what she had learned. They're predictable, she said. Terrifyingly predictable. Around them, the factory hummed with activity. Workers who had lost their jobs when Earth's governments announced the emergency industrial conversion had been retrained for this new purpose. They did not know they were building weapons to fight aliens. They knew only that their planet needed these devices and they needed them fast. Show me the production numbers, Yuri said. Sung-jin pulled out his tablet. Kinetic bombardment systems, 3,000 completed, 500 per week. Quantum communication arrays, 800 units. Stealth fighters adapted for space combat, 200 and growing. And the special projects? Ahead of schedule. Sung-jin's eyes lit up. Project Prometheus is working better than we hoped. They walked to a secured section of the factory, past guards, through blast doors into a room that officially did not exist. Inside, teams of engineers worked on devices that would have been impossible to imagine 6 months ago. The breakthrough came when we realized something, Sung-jin explained. The Empire has conquered 47,000 worlds. They've seen every type of weapon, every type of defense, every type of tactic. Except one. Which one? Weapons designed by a species that fights itself. Yuri studied the device on the workbench. It looked simple. A metal cylinder the size of a soda can, but according to the specifications, it could disable an Imperial battleship. How does it work? Psychological warfare, Sung-jin said. The Empire's soldiers have never encountered an enemy that fights irrationally. Their training, their equipment, their entire military philosophy assumes logical opponents. And humans aren't logical in war. Exactly. This device broadcasts specific frequencies that interfere with Imperial neural patterns. It doesn't hurt them physically. It just makes them confused, uncertain, unable to understand why their enemies keep fighting when they should surrender. Across the city, Lim Jae-sung coordinated the largest resource mobilization in human history. Every factory on Earth had been converted, every mine pushed to maximum output, every transportation system dedicated to moving war materials. Status report, he said into his communication device. South America is ahead of schedule, came the reply. Brazil alone is producing more steel than the rest of the continent combined. The new mines in Chile are operational. Asia, China has converted every manufacturing facility. Japan's electronics production is entirely focused on military applications. Korea's shipyards are working around the clock. Europe, German engineering is producing the precision components. British and French aerospace industries are building the fighter craft. Russia has opened every weapons facility. Jae-sung studied the global production charts on his wall. The numbers were staggering. In 4 months, humanity had produced more weapons than in the previous decade. But it still might not be enough. What about Africa? He asked. Mining operations expanded by 300%. South African rare earth extraction is critical to the quantum systems. Australia, their aerospace program is building the long-range interceptors. And North America? Full conversion complete. Every factory, every facility, every resource dedicated to the war effort. Jae-sung ended the call and looked at his charts again. The production numbers were impressive, but they told only part of the story. The real question was whether human weapons could even damage Imperial ships. That afternoon, Yuri met with the Global Strategic Planning Committee. Representatives from every nation sat around a table covered with battle plans and intelligence reports. The Empire's approach is always the same, she began. They arrive in system, demand surrender, and give the target species 24 hours to respond. If the answer is no, they attack. What kind of attack? Asked the Chinese representative. Orbital bombardment of major population centers, designed to demonstrate overwhelming superiority and force immediate surrender. And if that doesn't work? It always works. Every species in their database surrenders after the first demonstration. The Russian representative leaned forward. But we're not going to surrender. No, Yuri replied. Which means they'll move to phase 2, which is full military engagement, 300 ships in standard battle formation. Overwhelming force applied systematically until resistance collapses. How long does that usually take? For a Class 7 civilization? 72 hours on average. The room fell quiet. 72 hours. 3 days for the most powerful empire in the galaxy to completely conquer Earth. Unless, Yuri continued, we don't fight the way they expect. She stood and walked to the display screen. Every battle in Imperial history follows the same pattern. Fleet-to-fleet engagement in open space. The side with superior technology wins. The defeated side retreats or surrenders. So we don't fight fleet-to-fleet, said the American representative. Exactly. We make them come to us. We fight on our terms, in our space, using our tactics. Yuri pulled up a map of the solar system. They'll expect us to meet them somewhere between Mars and Jupiter. A conventional space battle with clearly defined opposing forces. But we won't be there. No. We'll be hiding in the asteroid belt, behind the moon, in the upper atmosphere of gas giants. We'll use guerrilla tactics in space. Has anyone ever tried that against the Empire? No. Because no other species in their database has a concept of guerrilla warfare. Every conquered civilization fought conventionally because that's the only way they knew how to fight. The meeting continued for hours. Plans within plans within plans. Every scenario analyzed, every possibility considered. By the end, they had something no conquered species had ever possessed. A battle plan the Empire could not predict. Meanwhile, in factories across the globe, production continued. Weapons that had never existed before rolled off assembly lines. Technologies that combined human ingenuity with alien intelligence data. Seung Jin worked 18-hour days, supervising the creation of devices that would horrify any peaceful species. Weapons designed not just to kill, but to break the will of enemies who had never faced determined resistance. The quantum virus is ready, reported his lead programmer. It will activate on contact with Imperial computer systems. What does it do? Shows them things they've never seen before. Human warfare, human determination, human willingness to die rather than surrender. Will it work? We'll find out. But Seung-jin, I've been studying their psychology profiles. The Empire's species are all logical. Rational. They make decisions based on survival probability. And I don't think they're psychologically prepared for what humans do in war. Across the planet, similar conversations were happening. In every facility, every laboratory, every command center, humans were preparing for something that had never happened before in galactic history. An empire that had conquered 47,000 worlds was about to encounter a species that had spent its entire evolution learning how to fight. 3 months remained before the Imperial fleet arrived. 3 months to complete the most ambitious military preparation in human history. 3 months to prove that the Empire's classification system had one fatal flaw. They had never classified a species that considered war an art form. Yuri looked out the window of her command center. In the distance, she could see rockets launching into space, weapons platforms, communication satellites, automated defense systems. Humanity was transforming itself into something the galaxy had never seen, not a peaceful civilization forced to fight, but a warrior species finally unleashed. The Empire was coming to conquer Class 7 primitives. They were going to meet humans instead. Song Hyun-woo stared at the largest display screen on Earth's orbital command station. 300 alien ships hung in space like metal cities. Each one was bigger than anything humanity had ever built. The Imperial fleet had arrived exactly on schedule. Range? He asked. 2 million kilometers and closing, replied his tactical officer. Standard Imperial formation. Flagship in the center. Battleships forming a protective sphere. Hyun-woo commanded Earth's defense fleet. 50 ships built in secret over the past 6 months. They were hidden throughout the solar system, waiting for this moment. Any communication from them yet? Yes, sir. Standard Imperial surrender demand. They're giving us 24 hours to respond. And our response? Ready to transmit, sir. Across the solar system, hidden bases monitored the Imperial fleet. On the moon, Bae Yoonji studied the aliens through every sensor Earth possessed. The xenopsychologist had spent months preparing for this moment. Pattern analysis complete, she reported to command. They're following standard protocol exactly. No deviations, no surprises. They're completely confident. What does that tell us? Asked her assistant. It tells us they've done this 47,000 times before. It tells us they have no doubt about the outcome. Yoonji paused. It also tells us they have no backup plan. No backup plan? They've never needed one. Every species surrenders. Why plan for something that never happens? The Imperial flagship was massive. 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could crack continents. On its bridge, Fleet Admiral Korthvex reviewed the target data one final time. Classification confirmed, reported his tactical officer. Class 7 primitive civilization. Standard occupation protocols approved. Resistance potential? Minimal. They have approximately 50 small craft. No significant weapons. No orbital defenses worthy of note. Korthvex nodded. This would be routine. His forces had conquered stronger civilizations before breakfast. Send the surrender demand. Already transmitted, sir. We should receive their capitulation within hours. On Earth, Song Hyun-woo read the Imperial message aloud to his command staff. Primitive species of the third planet. You have been selected for integration into the Galactic Empire. Surrender immediately and your transition will be peaceful. Resistance will result in the destruction of your civilization. Standard boilerplate, commented his communications officer. Same message they've sent to 47,000 other worlds. And our response? Hyun-woo asked. His staff exchanged glances. They had debated this moment for months. How do you respond to beings who have conquered half the galaxy? Send it, Hyun-woo ordered. The message that went back to the Imperial fleet was unlike anything in their records. No immediate surrender. No negotiation for better terms. Instead, Earth sent a challenge. Honored representatives of the Galactic Empire, the message began. We acknowledge your military superiority. However, our species has an ancient tradition. Before any conflict, we offer single combat between champions. If your champion wins, Earth surrenders. If ours wins, you leave our system in peace. On the Imperial flagship, Korthvex stared at the message in amazement. Single combat? He asked his staff. Are they serious? It appears so, sir. They're requesting a formal duel between representatives. This is unusual. No other species has ever made such a request, sir. Korthvex considered. The humans were primitives. Their champion would be equipped with primitive weapons. It would be an easy way to demonstrate Imperial superiority before the inevitable conquest. Agreed, he transmitted back. Send your champion to our flagship. Let us end this quickly. Ryu Changmin checked his equipment one final time. The Special Forces leader had volunteered for this mission, knowing he would not survive. But survival was not the point. Remember, Bae Yoonji said over his communicator, your real mission isn't to win the duel. I know, Changmin replied. How long do I need to keep them distracted? 12 minutes. That's how long it takes for the virus to propagate through their computer network. Changmin's shuttle approached the Imperial flagship. Around him, concealed in his equipment, were devices that did not exist 6 months ago. Quantum transmitters, data storage units, and most importantly, a computer virus designed specifically for Imperial technology. The duel is a distraction, Hyun-woo explained to his fleet commanders. While they focus on their easy victory, our real attack begins. Stealth ships in position? He asked. 57 ships hidden throughout their formation, came the reply. They have no idea we're there. Virus payload? Ready to deploy. Changmin just needs to get close to their main computer core. And then we show them why humans are different. The Imperial flagship's hangar bay was massive enough to hold a small city. Changmin's shuttle looked like an insect as it landed. Imperial soldiers surrounded him immediately. Their armor was sleek and advanced. Their weapons could vaporize him with a thought. I am Changmin of Earth, he announced. I come to face your champion. The Imperials were tall and pale, with large eyes adapted for low light. They moved with the confidence of beings who had never lost a war. This way, their leader said in perfect English. The Admiral wishes to observe your defeat personally. They escorted Changmin through corridors that stretched for kilometers. The ship was a city in space, home to 50,000 Imperial soldiers. All of them confident. All of them certain, none of them watching for threats they could not imagine. The duel took place in the flagship's central arena. Thousands of Imperials gathered to watch their champion destroy the primitive human. Changmin faced a Vorthak warrior twice his size, equipped with powered armor and energy weapons. Any last words? The champion asked. Yes. Changmin replied, activating the hidden transmitter in his equipment. Tell your empire that humans are different. The quantum virus began uploading to the flagship's computer network. Changmin's real mission was complete before the duel even began. The fight lasted 4 minutes. The Imperial champion was faster, stronger, and better equipped. Changmin fought well, but the outcome was never in doubt. As he lay dying on the arena floor, Changmin smiled. The virus had uploaded successfully. Throughout the Imperial fleet, computer systems were being quietly infected. Victory to the Empire, announced Korthvex. Prepare for planetary bombardment. These primitives need a demonstration of our power. But as the Imperial fleet moved toward Earth, something unprecedented happened. Hidden human ships invisible to Imperial sensors moved into attack position. The Empire had never encountered stealth technology, because no other species had ever developed it. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, I'm detecting some unusual readings. What kind of readings? Unknown. The computer systems are having difficulty identifying. The officer's words were cut off as alarms began sounding throughout the ship. On every screen, the virus activated simultaneously. What is happening? Korthvex demanded. Sir, something has infected our computer network. We're receiving massive data downloads. What kind of data? The screens filled with images no Imperial had ever seen. Human warfare throughout history. Stalingrad, Normandy, Gettysburg, the Somme. Images of humans fighting when victory was impossible. Images of civilians taking up arms. Images of soldiers charging into certain death. What are we looking at? Korthvex asked, his voice strained. I think, his tactical officer whispered. We're looking at what humans do when they fight each other. The psychological impact was immediate. Imperial soldiers, trained to expect logical surrender when faced with superior force, watched humans do the impossible. They watched a species that fought harder when losing, that turned defeats into victories through sheer determination. Sir, came reports from throughout the fleet. Our soldiers are requesting permission to withdraw. Withdraw? From primitives? Sir, they're not primitives. Look at the tactical displays. Korthvex turned to the battle screens. What he saw made no sense. Human ships were appearing throughout his formation. Ships that had been invisible moments before. Ships attacking from positions that should have been impossible to reach. How did they get there? Unknown, sir. Our sensors never detected them. Impossible. No species has stealth technology. Apparently, sir, one does. The battle for Earth had begun, but it was unlike any battle in Imperial history. The humans were not fighting fleet to fleet in open space. They were fighting like something the Empire had never encountered. They were fighting like humans. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire realized their classification system might be wrong. Park Jun-ho watched his masterpiece unfold across 300 Imperial ships. The quantum virus had taken 6 months to design and 30 seconds to activate. Now it was rewriting everything the Galactic Empire thought they knew about warfare. Virus propagation complete, he reported to Earth Command. Full neural network penetration achieved. What are they seeing? Asked Song Hyun-woo from the orbital command station. Everything, Jun-ho replied with grim satisfaction. Every war we've ever fought, every battle where humans chose death over surrender, every moment that proves we're not like the other species they've conquered. On the Imperial flagship, Fleet Admiral Korthvex stared at screens filled with impossible images. His tactical staff stood frozen, unable to process what they were witnessing. "Explain this," he demanded, pointing at footage of human soldiers storming a beach under impossible fire. "Sir, according to the data, this species called it D-Day. 200,000 humans attacked a fortified position knowing that tens of thousands would die. But why? The tactical situation was hopeless. Yes, sir. They attacked anyway." Another screen showed different battles. Humans fighting in frozen cities and burning forests and nuclear wastelands. Fighting when logic said to surrender. Fighting when winning was impossible. "This cannot be accurate," Korthvex said. "No species behaves this way." "Sir, we're receiving similar reports from the entire fleet. Every ship is seeing the same data." "Data about what?" "About how humans fight each other, sir." The psychological impact rippled through the Imperial forces. For 10,000 years, they had conquered species that fought logically, species that surrendered when defeat became inevitable, species that valued survival over abstract concepts like honor or freedom. They had never encountered a species that treated war as an art form. So Young coordinated the human counterattack from her position in the asteroid belt. Earth's hidden fleet struck from dozens of directions simultaneously. The Imperials had expected a conventional battle. Instead, they faced something their training had never prepared them for. "Wolfpack 7, execute flanking maneuver," she commanded. "Copy that, Control. Moving to attack Vector 37. The human ships moved like predators. Small, fast, impossible to track. They struck at Imperial vessels and vanished before retaliation was possible. No other species in galactic history had developed such tactics. "Admiral," reported an Imperial tactical officer, "we cannot engage the enemy effectively. They refuse to fight in formation." "Force them into formation," Korthvex ordered. "Sir, they're ignoring our attempts to establish battle lines. They're attacking individually from multiple directions using weapons we've never encountered." "What kind of weapons?" "Kinetic bombardment systems, sir. Crude but effective. And they're targeting our command structures, not our weapons." "Why target command structures?" "Unknown, sir. No other species has ever prioritized decapitation strikes." On another screen, Korthvex watched human boarding parties attack Imperial ships. But these were not the organized assaults he expected. These humans fought like something he had never seen. "They're not trying to capture the ships," his analyst reported. "They're trying to destroy them from inside." "That's suicide." "Yes, sir. They know it's suicide. They're doing it anyway." One day Hyun led the boarding assault on Imperial battleship Vorthkar. His team of Special Forces soldiers moved through corridors designed for beings twice their size. The ship's defenders outnumbered them 50-1. "Charges set," reported his demolitions expert. "Timer? 3 minutes. Extraction?" "No extraction, sir. We knew this was one way." Daehyun nodded. His men had volunteered knowing they would not return. But their sacrifice would destroy a ship capable of killing millions. "For Earth," he said. "For Earth," his team replied. They activated the charges and held their position. When Imperial soldiers finally broke through their defenses, the humans were still fighting, still holding the line, still buying time for the bombs to detonate. The Vorthkar died in nuclear fire, taking 50,000 Imperial soldiers with it. Similar scenes played out across the fleet. Human teams that should have been captured or killed instead chose death and destruction. Imperial psychology had no framework for understanding such behavior. "Admiral," came reports from throughout the fleet. "Our soldiers are requesting permission to retreat." "Retreat? We outnumber them 1,000-1. "Yes, sir, but they're not fighting like any enemy we've encountered. Our troops have never faced opponents who become more dangerous when cornered." Korthvex turned to his xenopsychologist. "Analysis. Sir, this species appears to possess what they call warrior culture. They consider combat a form of expression. They take pride in fighting against impossible odds. That's insane." "Yes, sir. From our perspective, it is completely irrational, but it appears to be universal among humans." "All of them fight this way?" "According to the data, their entire species has been shaped by constant warfare. They've spent thousands of years fighting each other with increasingly sophisticated methods. And now they're using those methods against us." "Yes, sir." On Earth, Park Jun-ho monitored the virus's secondary effects. The psychological warfare component was working better than anticipated. Imperial soldiers, faced with enemies who defied every rule of logical combat, were beginning to break. "Reports from the fleet?" he asked. 7 Imperial ships have requested permission to withdraw from combat," came the reply. 12 more have stopped firing entirely. Why? Their crews are refusing orders. They say fighting humans is impossible. Impossible how? Quote, "You cannot defeat an enemy that wants to die in battle more than they want to live." Junho smiled coldly. The virus had included carefully selected footage of human military culture. Images of soldiers volunteering for suicide missions. Stories of warriors who chose death over dishonor. Concepts completely alien to Imperial thinking. Fleet Admiral Korthvex made the decision that would echo through galactic history. Standing on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by screens showing impossible human behavior, he opened a communication channel to Imperial High Command. "This is Fleet Admiral Korthvex of the 7th Conquest Fleet," he transmitted across the galaxy. "I am submitting an emergency reclassification request for the species designated human." "Proceed," came the reply from the Empire's capital. "Current classification Class 7 Primitive Non-Resistant. Recommended reclassification Class 0 Absolute Do Not Engage." Silence from across the galaxy. Class 0 was theoretical. No species had ever earned that classification. "Explanation required," came the eventual response. "This species has weaponized warfare itself," Korthvex transmitted. "They do not fight to win. They fight to fight. They consider death in battle preferable to surrender. They have spent their entire evolutionary history perfecting methods of killing their own kind." Clarify. They are not Class 7 primitives. They are a warrior species that has been misclassified due to observation during peacetime. They possess tactical knowledge, psychological conditioning, and weapons technology specifically designed for fighting equals. Fleet status? Korthvex looked around his bridge. Half his screen showed human forces appearing in impossible positions. The other half showed Imperial units requesting permission to retreat. "Fleet is combat ineffective," he admitted. "Recommend immediate withdrawal and permanent quarantine of the Sol system." Approved. "Transmit all data for analysis." Korthvex turned to his communications officer. "Send everything. Every battle recording, every tactical analysis, every psychological evaluation. Make sure the Empire understands what we found here." "What did we find, sir?" "We found a species that treats war as an art form," Korthvex replied. "We found a species that becomes more dangerous when losing. We found a species that would rather die fighting than live under conquest." The Imperial fleet began its withdrawal, but before leaving, Korthvex sent one final transmission to Earth. "Species human," he broadcast. "You have achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. You have forced the Galactic Empire to retreat without superior technology. Your tactics, your determination, and your warrior culture have earned our respect." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Consider this your only warning. Other empires exist in this galaxy. Some are larger than ours, some are more ruthless, but now they will know what we learned here today. Which is," came Song Hyunwoo's reply, "humans are not Class 7 primitives. Humans are something the galaxy has never seen before. You are a species that has turned conflict into evolution, and that makes you the most dangerous beings in the known universe." The Imperial fleet vanished into hyperspace, carrying with them data that would change galactic civilization forever. For the first time in recorded history, a species had been classified as unconquerable not because of superior technology, but because of superior will. Earth's first contact with the galactic community was complete. The message was simple and would spread to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity was different. Humanity was dangerous, and humanity was never to be underestimated again. In the depths of space, other empires received the transmission. Other species read the tactical reports. Other civilizations learned about the small blue world that had achieved the impossible. They had defeated the Galactic Empire using nothing but human nature. And across the galaxy,